So this recording is looking at using Visual Basic in Excel. And I've started right from the beginning, so if you've missed any of the other videos or online content that we may have had so far, you know some of the basic building blocks as well along the way. You should have a couple of links to some VBA websites that act as quite a good glossary of key terms and key snippets of code that you might like to use, but we're going to look at some really simple bits today just to start us off. And I'm looking at Workbook 5. I'll just drag Workbook 5 in briefly. So Workbook 5, where we're looking at, after we've made the basic developer toolbar visible, we're looking at this cantilever beam problem. And ultimately, the screen grab that you've got at the end of that workbook shows the calculator working in Excel. We're looking to move it to a Visual Basic format. So the first thing we need to do is make Excel or display our developer toolbar in Excel. So at the moment, I haven't got the developer option in my ribbon. You might already have turned that on, so you can skip this bit. So I go to File, to Options, and then on the Customize Ribbon section, I tick the box that says Developer and click OK. That then gives me an extra tab that says Developer, and when I click that, I can see the Visual Basic button. I can also, as I hover over it, you can see possibly see a little pop-out window that says I can push Alt and F11 on the keyboard. That does the same thing, so I can use that even if the developer toolbar isn't visible. Alt and F11. So I'm going to open Visual Basic. It's dragging into the window you can see. So that's my Visual Basic window, and in there it displays the sheets, the workbook, and any modules of code that you've developed and any user forms you've developed for every single Excel workbook that is open. We're going to focus on, I've only got one open at the moment, we're going to focus on this new workbook that I've just started. And I'm going to look to develop a form. So that cantilever beam problem, it had some inputs that it wanted me to collect from the user. So they were specifically force, beam length, beam thickness, and beam width. So I'm going to have a form that collects those four things, and then do some calculations and output a nice graph, hopefully. So let's right click and insert a user form. You can see my toolbox on the right hand side here. I've got labels and I've got text boxes. They're the predominant things I'm going to use. Didn't want to double click that label. So the name of it doesn't matter, but the caption of the label matters because that tells us what it's going to say. So let's have force. It's good to put units. If I copy and paste, I'll make sure that they're all the same size, which makes it look a bit neater. So the four input variables that it was looking for were force, beam length, I'm going to assume that's measured in meters, keep the units standard, beam thickness, again measure everything in meters because it doesn't tell me what units it's working in, and beam width. And then I'm going to want four more boxes where I can collect that data. So again, I'm going to copy and paste the box. So I've got my four of equal size. That first one, I'm not going to call it text box 1, I'm just going to call it F. The second one for beam length, I'm going to call L. Let's check that first one worked. Yes, it did. third one, this is the name we're looking at now. I'm going to call the third one T. And I'm keeping it a lowercase t because that then matches the nomenclature you've got in the worksheet. And the fourth one I'm going to call lowercase w. Again, just to match what the worksheet said. The workbook 5. And then I'm going to have a button, command button. Which I'll call submit. And that's just going to submit my form. There we go. So when I click that, there we go. When I click it, it's going to open my Visual Basic. You won't have that label. That's because I clicked the label earlier. So it recognises that when I click submit, I want something to happen. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of space to work early on. So the first thing I want to do is I want to say which sheet I'm looking at. So I've only got one worksheet in my workbook. You can see that on the left hand side in the window where my cursor is now. There's only one worksheet. So sheet 1 dot activate means look at sheet 1. You saw that I had a lowercase a and it corrected it to an uppercase, so that's quite useful. So it corrects things like that. I've also got my 4 boxes that I want to extract the data from and store in my worksheet. So I need to get the data out of the user form and into the workbook. So I've got my 4 fields on the form, my F, my L, my T and my W. So we're going to have 4 if statements. I'll start with F dot value. So if F dot value, should probably be a lowercase. There we go. So if the number in the F box is not, is not blank, then what do I want it to do? Well, the first thing I want it to do is look at range, let's put it in B1 of sheet 1, which we've just activated, and I want to make the value in range B1, so again Excel recognising it as a number, to equal F dot value. So if F dot value, if the number in the F box that we defined on our form is not blank, then stick it in cell B1. End if. Now I've got that basic structure, I can copy and paste it because I'm lazy. The second one is not going to be F, but it's going to be L, and it's going to be B2. It's going to be L there. My third box was called lowercase t, and we'll put it in cell B3. That can be lowercase t, whoops. And my fourth one was lowercase w, going into cell B4 and lowercase w. Once we've done that, we can say unload me, and that's going to close my form. So if I play that now, and I'll just put some numbers in. It's interesting, I didn't think I hit submit, but I must have done. Oh no, I haven't, it was hidden, sorry. There we go, submit. That's closed the form down. And what we now want to see is in our spreadsheet, there we go, load the spreadsheet up, and you can see there's my 4 numbers have been transferred into the spreadsheet. Okay. So that's nice. Let's go back into here. Let's right click and view our code. We don't just want to do that though. Now we've got those 4 numbers, we need to do some basic calculations as well. So in our workbook, it was asking us for a stress. So we're going to need to, or we know that stress is equal to M times C over I. Now that's an equation that was given to you in the workbook, so you don't have to understand where it comes from at this point. That's not the purpose of this module. You're just looking to be able to implement it in code. We're also told that M equals F brackets L minus X. Now at the moment, sorry, times L minus X. Now at the moment, if I were to do to think the way that the code will think, it's going to try to do line 1, then line 2, then line 3, then line 4. I would imagine it will get stuck because it can't do this calculation because it doesn't know what M is, it doesn't know what C is, and it doesn't know what I is. So what you need to do is you need to make sure you've defined those terms before you try and calculate stress. So you need to make sure you've got your order of your working in the right sequence. We also know from the sheet that C is equal to 0.5 times T. This was all from workbook 5. And we know that I is equal to 1/12 times W times T cubed. So it's going to do those calculations. Now at the moment, I'm just going to say what... Whoops. Doesn't like that for some reason. Why does it not like that? If I put that in brackets. There we go, need your T in brackets. Now at the moment I'm just going to set my X to a specific value, so I'm going to say X equals, let's say, halfway down the length. And then we'll build it up in a minute. So at this point we'll say X equals halfway down the length. And if I then say I want you to put my stress in cell B6. My stress. So let's see what that does. So again, 100, 200, 300. Just to prove it's changing, I'll change one of the numbers. So that cell B4 should say 450 now. Click submit. You can see we've calculated a stress and dropped it in cell B6. That's the basic collection of the data input, and then the start of the processing, so doing those first initial steps. What we're going to look at in the second part is how we build up, how we vary that value of X, and how we develop the code a little bit further to capture stresses at different points along the beam according to what X is. Okay, so that will come up in our second video.